Hello everybody and welcome back to Let's Play Super Meat Boy. I'm Mr. Devious, or just Deeb, and today we're going to be moving on from the hospital to Chapter 3, The Salt Factory. Adventures of Lolo there, in that opening scene. I'd never played that game either. Well, I did once on an emulator. That's how I was able to recognize the opening at first. For some reason, that scene took a little longer than it should have, and I'm not entirely sure why. But let's get to the Salt Factory. Start with Meat Boy, as per usual. The Salt Factory is where the game goes, well, I'd honestly say this is where the game starts to get hard, but really, I'd be saying that all the Let's Play, because honestly, this game does get progressively harder. And that's one of the best parts about this game, is how they handle being able to make the game feel like it gets progressively harder, rather than just it peaks right away and then just stays at that level all the way through. I mean, towards the end, some of the levels feel like that, and this bandage is giving me a surprising amount of trouble. Gotta stop playing sloppy again. We got some birds around here. The Salt Factory is one of the more eerie places in the game, and it's kind of a huge place to make all this salt. This bandage is taking an interestingly long time. Oh boy, this is just a great sign of things to come. There we go. It only took more tries than it should have. More tries than it should have, yes. Literary genius. It doesn't even have to do with books. And on to the next level. We're up to 23 bandages already. The bandages just keep on racking up. That was just silly. We fall down here. There's a bandage. You don't have to go down. The way you gotta go is up. And we have salt pouring everywhere. Climbing up. I do like the Salt Factory. I like its design. I like its industrial atmosphere. But there is something about it it feels off. It's probably my least favorite world in the game. That's not to say I don't like it. I like it a lot. But there's just something about it that's off-putting to me, and I can't quite put my finger on it. So why is this salt so lethal? Well, Meat Boy is a boy without skin, so it'd basically be like rolling around in a pile of salt with cuts all over your body times about 1,000,000. Up there we see a bandage that I don't think you can get as Meat Boy. I'm quite sure that you cannot. See, you grab it and you fall to your death. So we're actually going to be coming back for that one later. And this is where the ceiling saw blade launchers actually start to get a little frustrating in their placement. Here, because of the conveyor belts, which you don't want to be running on the conveyor belts too much, you mostly want to be jumping. Hug that wall a little too tightly there, to be entirely honest. But yeah, we'll be getting that bandage a little bit later when we unlock a character who has an ability that'll make getting that bandage easier. But as you can see, yes, one of the gimmicks of this world, the Salt Factory, is conveyor belts, and they can be very tricky to maneuver. Not so much the horizontal ones. I'm mostly thinking of these ones that just fling you on upwards. Now, if only we could find, as you can see, there is a warp zone in there. And this key, we're gonna get that key. We need that key to get to that warp zone. But it falls by so fast. Okay. There we go. Also, as you get further in the game, warp zones tend to disappear a little more quickly, so you need to be quick in getting to them. Oh god, E.T. Actually, I think the name of this warp zone is Cartridge Dump, which is a nice little nod to the urban legend about all those E.T. cartridges getting dumped in a landfill. But as far as Atari zones go, it's not the hardest one, but it certainly isn't easy either. All of the levels are short, if I remember, but they do have a ton of very tricky, very precise jumps that could keep me here a while if I don't play properly. Like right there. And now I gamed over. And I'm dead. Back we go into the warp zone. Don't... Up. Jump. It's tricky because it's just trying to figure out how to get Meat Boy to that altitude, because he can't reach that high on a normal jump. He needs to reach it with a wall jump. Because apparently a wall jump sends him higher than a normal jump. And I'm not sure how they... Oh, there we go, but we game over. So, kind of a moot point. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this, or die. Well, die more. It's not Super Meat Boy without death. The game expects you to die, and the next chapter really emphasizes that whenever we get there. Actually, I am a little bit worried about the later chapters of the game, because if I'm not doing so well on, say, the hospital or the salt factory, and it's not that they're easy levels, it's just that the ones that are coming up are a lot more difficult. This game spikes in difficulty. Okay, I'm just gonna skip ahead to whenever we get this. Well, that didn't take long. That's one way to get things a lot more quickly. Just say you're gonna skip ahead, because that's a sign of resignation, and I guess. Thankfully, that part is nowhere near as difficult as the other part. We go up here, and we slip and slide and fall all over the place. I'm not sure why, but actually I already talked about how the first level in a set of warp zones can be the most difficult, which is actually for the best, rather than one hard one, then increasingly difficult levels, until eventually the last one becomes so difficult that it becomes annoying to trudge through the first two. But then you play the first two levels so much that they really aren't that hard by comparison. I could have done that a lot better too. Some of the A+s on certain levels are a lot harder than others. I mean, that should go without saying. Like, some of them are more forgiving, especially... I'm thinking of this point at the end of the game where there's a lot of levels that all give you like a minute flat to be there to get the A+. And when it isn't really necessary, but I think we need another character to get that. But as I was saying, later it feels like there are worlds that don't seem to challenge, like, the level's already challenging enough. You don't need to worry about beating it in under a par time, unless we're talking about the online scoreboards, in which case, well, beat it to your heart's content as quickly as you can. I know better than to try and get on one of those scoreboards. It's just ridiculous. We'll be back for that warp zone. Where are we? We are exploding. That's just delicious. Missiles are not... They're very tricky at first when you first run into them. They're very intimidating because not only do they shoot missiles, but the missiles home in on you. And, well, if you don't learn how to manipulate how they move, well, they're pretty tricky. But they're certainly not the worst in obstacles that home in on you. That, I personally think, would be in the next chapter. Now, which level was this? Oh, right, there's a bandage in here somewhere. And also a missile that will explode you into pieces. I wonder if this salt factory was already here, or if Dr. Fetus built it for the express purpose of murdering Meat Boy and filling his body with salt. So much pain, so much salt, that he must explode. Run away from that one, get in there, and there's Meat Girl. Meat girl, yes. Genius. Truly. That is what she is called. There's a bandage in here somewhere, and I don't remember where it is all of a sudden. Oh, now I remember. You gotta get up here. You gotta jump through those... Do you? Or am I thinking of a different level? Oh, there it is. There it is. Get back here, bandage. Get back here. See, that one's a little tricky. This isn't the last level where there's a wall of saw blades chasing you, but usually in levels like that, well, not usually, but sometimes you can trick your way through the saw blades and give yourself a much easier time. And then there are levels like this. What am I saying? This level isn't very tricky at all. I'm thinking of the harder version of this level. Ooh, I'm hinting at those levels, those harder levels that most of you probably already know about, but I'm avoiding talking about for whatever reason. Actually, on a laggy computer, on my old computer, the factory was one of the more difficult places in the game, because with a lagging computer, the saw blades and everything don't necessarily go at the speed they're supposed to. And things can get a lot more brutal when things don't go at the pace that the designers intended for them to go at. Which is why I'm so glad to have a properly paced computer, and to also fall into a pit and die. The clouds in this game are very nice to look at, very pretty. Actually, I don't think this section, like, parts of the Salt Factory really aren't that bad. There are a few levels that are pretty tricky, and I keep saying that. I keep saying that this area isn't so bad. There are a couple areas that are tricky, but I usually do mean it. I mean, most of the worlds are like that. They'll have a couple breather levels, and then they'll have a couple levels that you might spend several minutes on. I wouldn't say that there is any particular level that I've spent, say, an hour on, thankfully. But, oh, wait a minute. I just remembered, there is a warp zone in here somewhere. There it is. Kind of tricky. Oh, and we want this one. Ha ha ha, Ogmo. This is Ogmo from Jumper. That's literally all I know about Ogmo, other than that he is an absolutely fantastic character in this game. Probably one of my favorites to use in the entire thing, because his ability is to double jump, as you can see, and the double jump is one of the best abilities in the game, hands down. Being able to basically have another shot to make more precise jumps, it's just fantastic. He's not the best double jumper in the game because, well, double jumping is a pretty common ability. It's not that common, but more characters share it than any other given ability. But Ogmo is a very solid first double jumper. You still need to be careful. He is a bit heavier than Super Meat Boy, though. He can't jump as high. I don't think he can, anyway. So there are situations where using him isn't really that great. And I will concede that, but he's great at getting some of the bandages, like that warp zone and that bandage we saw earlier. Yeah, we're gonna go back and get those, like, right after we unlock Ogmo, right after we beat his levels. And if I can stop falling in spikes and getting impaled. Ogmo isn't made of meat, we know that much. He looks like Meat Boy, but he's not meat, because he doesn't explode. Or maybe it's just because he doesn't explode in his own game. Maybe he is made of meat. I mean, I'm made of meat. And so are most of you, I hope. I have to say, World 5's unlockable character is already giving me nightmares, and I haven't even gotten there yet. Anybody who's played this game and has gotten that far probably knows exactly what I'm talking about, exactly who I'm talking about, the level set I'm talking about, and how nightmarishly difficult it is. But really, given the character they had, I really don't think they had any other choice but to make it as difficult as they did. But we'll cross that hurdle when we come to it, if we ever come to it, if we ever get out of this strange temple. I don't know. I never played Jumper. I don't know nothing about Jumper or Ogmo. Maybe I should. Could be a fun game. You know, I think it would be neat if these sections offered a replay video. I forget if they do at any point. Hello, Steven. That character we saw right there at the end was from the, I think it was from the Flash game Time, or however you're supposed to pronounce that. Another of Edmund McMillan's games, one that he worked on, one with his art style. Anyway, I do believe that we have to go back and get a bandage in this world, or in this level. This level? Well, first we want to get the bandage in this one, and for that, we're gonna use Ogmo. Yes. Or Ogmo can just get saw-bladed. Saw-bladed. Just gotta remember, you still have to beat the level. And that's really one of the hardest parts about the bandages, is getting to them, which is a huge enough risk as it is, and then just surviving for the rest of the level, which isn't always that difficult, but, well, I remember reading very specifically about how they had their whole minds, about the development process of the game, their whole mindset behind, in certain games there's a whole risk-reward system. And in this game, it's the warp zones and the bandages. Sure, you're more likely to die, but you get rewarded with new characters, which can be very fun to play as and can make the game easier. Meat Boy is the only character who appears in the warp zones. He's the only playable character in the warp zones, aside from the character warp zones themselves, obviously. Which, I suppose, is just... it's alright. I mean, I'm not complaining. There's nothing wrong with playing as Meat Boy. He probably handles better than most characters in any video games. I really haven't praised the controls enough in this game, how smooth and tight they are, and how most of the time you don't get mad at the game. Most of the time you won't get mad at the game. Well, you will, but after the fact, you can be safe in the knowledge that many of the deaths were your own fault, like that. Like, I just walked off that cliff. The game didn't walk me off a cliff. I walked myself off a cliff, and that was all my fault. But we're gonna get that bandage down there. One of the trickier jumps in this game is getting down low enough to get the bandage without falling off, like I just did. Like a genius. Absolutely genius. Oh, and almost had it, but then we died. We died. Now we're going back to Warp Zone. We're gonna do this until we get it. But the good news for you is, you don't have to watch me do it a million times. Oh, there we go. I was about to cut, but then I didn't. One thing you have to be careful about in this game, though, is that off-screening Meat Boy usually will kill you. By which I mean it will always kill you if you go more than a centimeter off the screen. Meat Boy doesn't like that for some reason. And now we get basically the exact same bandage we did before, with the difference of we gotta get it without... oh, there we go. And there we go. Without destroying our wall up there. Ah, great. We unlocked another new character. We have 2 new characters now. Ogmo and Joseph, from a game that you just saw the name of there. I've seen its game on the store page, and it looks very pretty. It looks like a very art-styled game, and I'm all for those kinds of games. I really am. But I just haven't played it yet. I'm sure a lot of people have, and... what the heck? See, in the Xbox Live version of this game, you would unlock Alien Hominid, and for some reason, here he is in this game. Okay. I honestly have no idea what that's about. What the heck is going on? Okay, this is Alien Hominid, and he can use his gun by holding down the shift button. He also explodes into blood. He can use his blaster to slow his descent, I think. I don't know. I don't remember him handling that well for me on the Xbox Live version of this game either. This is funny because I genuinely remember this character being Joseph, that robot. Maybe something went, maybe, I don't know. I have no idea what's going on. Aw, isn't he cute? He doesn't really care about Bandage Girl, he's just an alien. Aliens exploding all over the place, that for sure. Oh, missile launchers. Missiles will destroy these blocks, these destructible blocks. I mean, it only makes sense, and missiles will make you explode too. And that only makes sense because that's what missiles do. If you got hit by a missile and it doesn't explode you, that's hardly a missile at all. It's probably a pillow and not a missile. This is a stupid joke. And here we go, and we get splattered. But I'm actually going to switch back to another character. What the? See, now it's Joseph. What is going on with this game? This game is silly and glitchy, but I don't care. Indie games aren't necessarily perfect, but they're more forgivable because they have a lot less people working on them who are able to basically test the game. They don't have a whole bunch of beta testers who say, oh, this is weird, and they don't have the time and resources to fix every little thing. And it's not game-breaking, it's just, it's cute, almost. Cute. Joseph, as you can see, can slow his descent and also get shredded by saw blades like he did just there as you're just about to complete the level. I apologize for that shoddy performance, but we're not going to make that mistake again. Joseph, you look kind of funny. Dig. Dig, dig, dig. Why does this level recall such nightmares for me? I know why. And it's honestly... I'm gonna pretend that I'm not gonna have to do that level again at some point. Jump in the salt and die. Like that. Actually, for this level, let's switch back to Ogmo, just because I find him fun to play as. And he only got like one level because, well, we unlocked Alien Hominid and Joseph. Joseph. I think it's supposed to be pronounced Joseph in the old European way. But I don't know. Maybe not. Joseph. Joseph isn't particularly great. Like a lot of the Bandage unlockable characters feel like they're more, oh, they're like a quirky little bonus. Like, you can play as this character, but they don't feel as tight or as well made as Meat Boy or the Red Warp Zone unlockable characters, who usually are, like I said in the last episode, a lot more, what's the word? A lot more polished. This is the slowest well, now here's a little fun bit. Getting over Bandage Girl without touching her to end the level. And getting that key to go up here and get this bandage. And now to get back without getting blown to bits. Like that. We'll be right back. Actually, later on in the game, there are a lot of sections that'll just force you to sit and wait and dodge some terrible thing that's homing in on you multiple times, just like that. And honestly, they are some of the hardest, most aggravating levels in the game. It's probably my least favorite level in the game is in the last world, the very last world. And it involves just standing around, avoiding stuff that's constantly trying to kill you. But they're nowhere near as easy to dodge as the missiles, and there we go! That's that done. Oh my goodness, look at all of those Ogmos. We're saving that replay, because it's the first one I've remembered to watch that, well, is worth recording. See? This is where you get the most satisfaction out of taking a long time to beat a level. Just getting to see all of your efforts, all of the tries it took to get this far, and then to see just them die off one by one, especially at those harder parts, and then to just watch the one lone victor go on ahead, completely unmatched by his peers, to just go on and win the level. And that is the Salt Factory. Now, let me just check to make sure that we got everything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, that is everything, so let's get on right to the boss. Brownie. I'm not even gonna say anything. Here we have Brownie. It's kind of gross. Kind of nasty. As far as a boss goes, he's not that difficult. In fact, he's hardly a boss compared to the other bosses in this game. He's not even an obstacle. It's a race, a quote-unquote race. But you're more racing against the Salt than you are against Brownie himself. And it is one of the shorter ones, and I do appreciate that, because this video is getting long enough as it is, and we get up to the top. Well, I guess Meat Boy isn't as much of a prick as I thought he was in Chapter 2. But now he's dead. End of game. See you in the next part.